Welcome back to 5 Minutes to Better Lighting. I'm David Henry from LearnStageLighting.com, and in this video, we're going to talk all about intensity, that's why all the lights are light, and how you can use it to make a great show. Now, if you're enjoying this 5 Minutes to Better Lighting, or maybe this is the first video you've watched, go ahead and subscribe and click that bell. I want you to get the latest videos here from Learn Stage Lighting, starting with the rest of this series because it's day 8, but we got 30 days, actually 31 days in this month where we get to spend 5 minutes each day working on improving your lighting. And this week, really today through about the 15th through the 14th, this is a big week because we're talking about intensity, focus, color, and beam. In the last video, I'll put that on the screen here, we introduced them and I talked about these 4 things pretty vaguely and talked about how to use them. Now it's all about the real world. How do we make this happen on a stage and use it to make our show interesting? So when we're going to work with any of these attributes, as I've kind of mentioned before, there's really 2 things on the top of my mind to think about, right? So right now we've got all our lights on. They're all on at full, okay? And I mentioned in the last video that when you want to make a change on stage, think about intensity, focus, color, beam. Think about these individual attributes and then think about, let me highlight these a little better. Then just think about how you can use one of those, just one, to make a change on stage and then go do it to make things interesting. And so, you know, we can go from a place of literally where we're here, where everything's at full right now, and we could bring everything down, right? And that's a change on stage. But there's another concept that goes hand in hand with this, and it's what I call dynamic range. Now, if you're familiar with audio, dynamic range, and a lot of people here are, I know, because a lot of us are musicians or have worked with audio before, we're familiar with this concept because it's all about what is the loudest versus the softest point within music. You know, within a particular piece of music, what's the loudest, what's the softest, and the difference between those two is the dynamic range. And most people would argue that in music, the larger that difference is, generally the better the music is. We like dynamics, and they sound good to us, and they feel good to us when we have dynamics. Of course, in modern recorded music, there's often not a lot of dynamics, but in a live show, there can be. And the great thing about stage lighting is, you know, we're not on records. We're not on CDs, right? We're in the live, whether that's for a band, a church that has worship, whether that's for a DJ set, whether it's for a theater group. We're going to have dynamics throughout our show or service. And so what that can look like then is, you know, with intensity, maybe as we go through the time, there's certain times where we turn certain lights off. Maybe we go ahead and, in fact, during most of our show, for example, these pars on the backlight, I just turned those off. Maybe you can even do whole songs where you turn off everything but the front light completely. There can be a lot of great looks you can do just with intensity. We're not even talking about effects here. That'll be later this week in a few days. But if we think about it, we can really, even if you don't have a lot of lights, you can create a lot of different looks by just turning on and off different lights. For a moment here, I'll turn everything off, okay? And that's a look in itself. You might not think of it. Maybe you come out of a moment like this, right, where everything is off, and you just come in with a couple lights, you know? Say I grab 2 of these movers on the back truss, and I turn them on. And so you can see, a minute ago we had everything on, right? But now we just have these 2 lights, and if we point them a little better, they'll be hitting our fabulous lead singer guy, okay? And you can see on the stage the impact that this has. You can see how powerful intensity really can be, because the difference between having these two lights, and maybe you don't even have them at full, maybe they're a lot less, and the difference between that and then having everything on is very dramatic, right? Those are the dynamics that we're looking for in a show. And as you can see here from just these simple basic examples that I've just shown you, there is a massive difference between having just a couple lights on, maybe having no lights on, and having all the lights on like we did a minute ago, right? There can be a massive difference between having just your front light and bringing in the whole rest of the rig, or just part of it. And so these are the kind of things that I want to get you guys thinking through on this 30 days, this 31 days where we're spending 5 minutes a day working on better lighting. Think about as you're going through and you're running lights for some kind of event. One of the things, especially with intensity, I always tell people to do is turn some stuff off. Think about that intensity attribute, because right here in this visualization right now, every light is on and it's chaotic and busy. And sure, there's moments in a show when you want to do that, but you don't want to do that all the time. Because when you do that all the time, it loses interest over time. It starts to get stale. Whereas if you turn off most of the stuff for a lot of the time, you get a really interesting look, even if you don't have a lot of lights, which then leads that when you have a moment that you bring everything in, it actually makes it seem a lot grander, you know? So that's what we got for today. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, if you've enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe, and also check us out on Patreon. The Patreon's new here, but it's going well. I would love to have you as a supporter on Patreon. This is perfect if you're enjoying what we're putting down here on YouTube and on the podcast, but you know, you don't need the help and guidance, and you don't want the access to all the tutorials that Learn Stage Lighting Labs has. This is a great middle ground, a great way to help support so that we can keep creating this wonderful, great stuff for you. I'll see you guys there, and I will see you guys in our next video tomorrow. Thanks.